Enlightening beings in this stage of joy get to see many Buddhas. By broad vision and by the power of vows, seeing many hundreds of Buddhas, many thousands of Buddhas, many hundreds of thousands of Buddhas, many millions, many billions, many trillions of Buddhas. Having seen those Buddhas, those saints, those completely enlightened ones, by broad vision and the power of vows, the enlightening beings honor and serve them with supreme zeal, presenting them with the necessities of life, such as food, clothing, drink, vessels, bedding, and medicines. And they also bring comforts for enlightening beings. And they also respect and support the religious community. These supreme roots of goodness the enlightening beings dedicate to consummate enlightenment. From this service of Buddhas arise means of development of beings, and the enlightening beings develop sentient beings to maturity by giving and by kind speech. The other two means of salvation helping out by the power of faith, though as yet without complete knowledge and attainment. Of the 10 transcendent ways, the transcendent way of giving is foremost. Not that the others are not cultivated, but they are practiced according to the enlightening beings' power and endowment. And as the enlightening beings serve the Buddhas and work for the development of sentient beings, practicing to accumulate those elements that purify the stages, thus do the enlightening beings' roots of goodness dedicated to universal knowledge become more and more purified and capable of application as desired. Just as when gold is plunged into fire over and over by a skilled smith, it becomes more and more purified and workable and can be made into various ornaments as desired, in the same way as the enlightening beings attend Buddhas and work for the perfection of sentient beings and cultivate the factors that purify the stages, so do their roots of goodness become more and more purified and useful. Then the enlightening beings in this stage should ask Buddhas, enlightening beings, and spiritual friends about the characteristics and attainments of this first stage, and should be tireless in seeking of the components of this stage. In the same way, in order to fulfill the components of the stages of enlightening beings up to the 10th, the enlightening beings should become versed in the problems and solutions of the stages, in the formation and dissolution of the stages, in the forms and actions of the stages, in the attainment and cultivation of the stages, in the purification of the elements of the stages, in the progression from stage to stage, in the attainment of each stage without regression, in the purification of all stages of enlightening, to the accession to the stage of enlightened knowledge. There is no cease in the ascent of the enlightening beings who are skilled in fostering the forms of practice of the stages up to the accession to the 10th stage. By unceasing progress on the path and by the light of knowledge of the stages, the enlightening beings attain the light of Buddha knowledge. It is like a skilled caravan leader who, wanting to lead a large caravan to a great city, first finds out about the qualities of the road to be traveled, the defects of the road, the best places to stop along the way, the places not to stop, and what is to be done about provisions for the trip, thus knowing well how to get to the great city from the beginning to the end of the journey. Thus, by fully preparing for the way by this intelligent consideration, the caravan leader finally reaches the great city along with the caravan, without the caravan or himself being beset by difficulties in desolate places. In the same way, the enlightened beings, as clever caravan leaders, when established in the first stage of enlightening beings, become familiar with the issues and solutions of the stages, the formation and dissolution of the stages, the practical aspects of the stages, the attainment and cultivation of the stages, the purification of the elements of the stages, the progression from one stage to another, the consolidation of each stage, the special knowledge of each stage, attainment of each stage without regression, and accession to the stage of Buddha knowledge by means of the quality of purification of all the stages of enlightening beings. Then the enlightening beings, having gotten together provisions of great virtue and knowledge, and having well established a store of knowledge, wishing to lead the great caravan of sentient beings to the city of omniscience, first inquire and find out the qualities of the path of the stages, deviations from the path of the stages, errors in the path of the stages, the best of stations along the path of the stages, and what is to be done about the provisions of virtue and knowledge for the path of the stages, asking Buddhas, enlightening beings, and spiritual friends about this, to become versed in how to reach the great city of omniscience. Thus, by intelligent consideration of the way before proceeding, and by thus fully preparing provisions of virtue and knowledge, the enlightening beings lead the great caravan of sentient beings, according to their maturity, across the wasteland of the mundane world to the great city of omniscience, without either the caravan or the enlightening beings being beset by the ills of the wasteland. Thus, enlightening beings should work tirelessly on the cultivation of the stages. This is a brief explanation of enlightening beings' entry into the first stage of extreme joy. Enlightening beings in this stage are mostly monarchs of a continent, having attained great power and sovereignty, guardians of right, wise and capable, taking good care of beings with great generosity, undertaking unlimited acts of charity to rid beings of the taint of envy and discontent, and whatever acts the enlightening beings undertake, whether by giving, or by kind speech, or by beneficial action, or by cooperation, those acts are never apart from thoughts of Buddha, of the teaching, of the community, of enlightening being, of the practices of enlightening beings, of the transcendent ways, of the stages, of the expertise and unique qualities of Buddhas, of omniscience complete in all respects. To what purpose? To become the best of beings, unexcelled leaders and guides, and ultimately omniscient refuges. Those who seek to be thus undertake the appropriate effort, by which they give up all comforts and go forth in conformity with the teaching of Buddha. Having gone forth, enlightening beings instantly attain 100 concentrations and see 100 Buddhas and acknowledge their power. They stir 100 worlds, go to 100 lands, illumine 100 worlds, mature 100 beings, live for 100 eons, penetrate 100 eons past and future, contemplate 100 teachings, and manifest 100 bodies, each body manifesting a company of 100 enlightening beings. Then enlightening beings with superior powers of commitment by the quality of excellent vows transform their bodies, auras, mystic powers, vision, spheres of operation, voices, conduct, adornments, power, resolution, and performances in countless ways.